It's time. Time to predict every NFL division. Welcome, football fans, to another BLV NFL prediction video. In this video, I predict the standings of every AFC and NFC division for the 2025 NFL season. Now, this is done without record predictions. From number 4 to number 1, I rank every NFL team inside their division based on how well I believe they will perform in 2025. I will also include the teams that I believe right now will make the playoffs. So if that sounds good and you love the bottom line view, Gronk, spike the like button. I'll even say this, if we get 100 likes, I will release my record predictions for every team, every division, and release a new set of standings for the 2025 NFL season once we see the actual schedule for every team. Now, keep in mind, this is before I've seen the order of games that each team plays. I do know the opponents, so that at least helps. The draft's over, free agency is done and finished. We know the teams and rosters, so this is at least an early look at my predictions for 2025. Subscribe, jabroni, and let's get to it. Let's kick it off with the AFC and the AFC East. I have two playoff teams in the East this year. My New England Patriots will be the 7 seed in the AFC, but my bolder take is that the Buffalo Bills will be the number 1 seed with the 5th easiest schedule in football this year. Josh Allen has a better roster around him. The defensive line of the Bills has been boosted from the draft with TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson, on top of Ogunjobi, and some of the pickups from free agency. You look at the secondary, Maxwell Hairston in the first round. You add Tre'Davious White back, Dane Jackson. The depth of the defense is much stronger. Elijah Moore, Josh Palmer, some nice additions to the receiving core and the weaponry for the MVP of football. The Bills will be the number 1 seed, which is going to be a lot of fun because that means the AFC goes through the Mafia. Maybe the hotter take, depending on your perspective, because some people will understand this, but some people will hate on this, and let me know in the comments where you're at. I like the Patriots to make the playoffs this year. They have the 2nd easiest schedule in football. I am a huge Drake May believer, and I'm a huge Mike Vrabel believer. And at the end of the day, I believe the NFL is won and lost based on quarterback play and head coach. And I believe both of these guys are studs. I think the Patriots will be a much more refined and overall better coach team in 2025 than they were in 2024, including Josh McDaniels calling plays for young Drake May, which will take his game to the next level. He has better protection, Will Campbell, Morgan Moses, better backfield with Travion Henderson, better receivers with Kyle Williams and Stephon Diggs, and I think a top 10 defense. Milton Williams, that's a big addition, literally. Robert Spillane, Carlton Davis with Christian Gonzalez could be one of the best corner duos in football. I think they're going to be a well-rounded team that can just about beat anybody, and that's thanks to Mike Vrabel and this new culture. I think the Patriots will shock the NFL fandom and make the playoffs. I have them as the 7 seed. The Miami Dolphins, I expect to slip in their play this year. Quite frankly, I do not believe in them from a culture perspective. Jalen Ramsey wanting to leave is not good news. Their secondary without him is dreadful, and their offensive line might be even worse. Tua, behind that offensive line, could get terribly injured as well, and Tyreek Hill doesn't even really want to be there. So while I like Mike McDaniel, and I do think there's talent at receiver, I think there's weaponry and speed on offense, and I do like the pass rush, I just don't think this team is good enough to make the playoffs, so I have them in 3rd, and then the New York Jets in 4th. They're clearly the worst team in this division. They have clearly the worst quarterback in this division with Justin Fields. They have a new coaching staff entirely with no real experience at this level from Aaron Glenn. And look, I don't love the offense. The offensive line is young and perhaps they could shine, but I don't love the receiving core outside of Garrett Wilson. And the defense, I don't think will be quite as good as it was a year or two ago. They did lose key pieces like CJ Mosley in leadership and DJ Reed at corner. So the Jets are number 4. I think they'll be one of the worst teams in the AFC. Next up, we have the AFC North, which will also have 2 playoff teams. Last year, they had 2. The Steelers were one of them. I have the Steelers moving to number 3 in the division, regardless of Rodgers or not. I'm not sure if he's going to sign or not. I think he will, but they just traded George Pickens. I'm not sure what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing. I have no idea. I do think they'll have a very good defense. I do think that Rodgers, if he does sign, will be actually pretty solid for the Steelers. I just look at the Bengals and the Ravens being a little bit better. I think the Bengals with Joe Burrow will score a ton of points. Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, T. Higgins, right? Like, this offense is potent, and they got super unlucky last year based on their results. If their defense just gets a little bit better, which I believe it will, with added depth to the linebacker position, more health in the secondary, and, you know, guy like Shamar Stewart mixing it up on the defensive line. TJ Slayton was a nice pickup. I think the Bengals will just play a little bit more formidable defense, and their offense will be as potent and as explosive as last year, which will lead them to like 10, 11, 12 wins, which will put them alongside Baltimore at the top of this division. Baltimore, I still have as the winner of this division, and I would say they'll be the 2 seed in the AFC. Lamar is one of the best quarterbacks in football. Derrick Henry and Lamar is something I only thought I'd see in Madden. The offensive line is solid and aggressive and physical. They do have multiple weapons now, adding D-Hop to Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, and Rashad Bateman coming off his best season. And defensively, they could be one of the top 5 units in football. Well coached, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, right? You got Kyle Van Noy returning. I love their draft for them on defense with Starks and Green, and we know what Marlon Humphrey can do. So I feel like the Ravens are very complete. This could be their year to win the Super Bowl. I do think the Bengals bounce back and make the playoffs. I look at the Steelers. I think they'll be a solid 3rd, competing for a playoff spot, but just missing out. And 4th, I have the Browns. Talented, potential upside here. I like Stefanski and Schwartz. I'm not really sure what's going on at quarterback. Will it be Dylan Gabriel? Will it be Shador Sanders? Will it be Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco? I have no idea. I like the offensive line. I don't love it. It's a little old for my liking. The running back situation is intriguing, but I'm not sold. I like Judy and Njoku, but they feel like 2s and 3s rather than 1s. And the defense will be very competitive, but they have been very competitive the last couple of years, and they still sucked. So at number 4, I have the Cleveland Browns. I just think they're clearly the worst team in this division, unless like Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders become something special, which I'll be proven wrong. That's fine. The AFC South. The Texans are clearly the best team. They will make the playoffs. They will win this division. My only worry about them is injuries and the offensive line. I do think, though, there's almost no chance that their offensive line could be worse because it was so bad last year. Like, it was one of the worst offensive lines I've ever watched. And I also watched the Patriots offensive line last year. It was toe-to-toe. But CJ Stroud should have a big bounce back. I love him as a player. Joe Mixon, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz. And then you add on, even with Tank Dell out, Christian Kirk, you add Higgins, you add Knoll in the draft. So there's big time speed, playmaking ability, size across the receiving core. They can run it, throw it. I think the offensive coordinator addition or subtraction will also improve their offense. And defensively, I've spoken at length about how I believe they're the most talented defense in football this year. Okay. Daniil Hunter on one side, Will Anderson on the other. They go 3-4 deep at edge. Defensive tackle might be their weakness, but they still have reliable starters. They have 3 or 4 starters at linebacker, led by Azeez Al-Shaair, and they've got one of the best corner duos in football established last season with Lassiter on one side, Stingley on the other. They increased their depth at safety. D'Amico's a great coach. I think the Texans are easily the best team, most talented team in this division. Jacksonville, I think, will take second because I believe in Liam Cohen, and I think Trevor Lawrence is the second best quarterback in this division. If he's healthy, I think that will lead them to the second place crown. It's really that simple. When you have Trevor Lawrence in a Liam Cohen offense behind a formidable but not very good offensive line, probably a better run game just because of Cohen's scheme, and then you have Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas, and De'Ami Brown, and even Brenton Strange, look out for him. I think they'll move the ball and score some points against most teams. Defensively, though, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. I think their secondary should be a tad bit better, a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if this team won 7 to 9 games in that range, and they were kind of exciting to watch, again, if Lawrence stays healthy. I have the Colts in third and the Titans in fourth, but I could easily swap that. I was kind of indecisive. I just think the Titans have a terrible roster. Like, I really don't like their roster. I like Cam Ward quite a bit, but the offensive line might be a little bit improved, but I thought they completely overpaid Dan Moore at left tackle. Calvin Ridley's their only real threat of a receiver, and the run game's okay. It's nothing special. The defense has no pass rush to speak of. Their secondary, their corner position's okay. But again, like, I don't know how they're winning games based on what they have, especially Callahan leading the way as their coach. I'm just not sold with this roster or this coaching staff for me to move them up, despite me loving Cam Ward. I think it might be a new regime for that to really happen. The Colts, I like Steichen. I like Lou Anarumo, so I believe in their coaching more than Tennessee, despite me not liking Anthony Richardson or really Daniel Jones either. The offensive line is solid enough. They've got great weapons at receiver, tight end now with Tyler Warren, Jonathan Taylor at running back, and their defensive line is deep and talented, and they did improve their secondary, adding a name like Charvarius Ward and Bynum at safety from the Vikings. So I think the Colts will be probably not very good. They probably won't win like 9-10 games, but I think they could be in that 6 to 8 win range because they have solid offensive coaching and just an overall talented roster despite a bad quarterback. But they're in a weak division. So there's the AFC South. The AFC West is always interesting. I'm going to stay with the old reliable Kansas City being first. I think a lot of people might put the Chargers at first place as a hot take. I'm just not willing to believe it. I don't think the Chargers are actually that much more talented than the Chiefs, if not at all. I think the Chiefs still have the best quarterback and coach in this division, despite what people will say about Herbert and Harbaugh. And I do think the Chiefs did improve offensively. Like, if you look at them entering the year, I think Rashee Rice with Hollywood Brown, with Worthy, with Pacheco returning from injury, with the additions that they made on the offensive line through the draft and free agency, Moore and Simmons in particular, I think they will be more explosive and more exciting offensively. Where I actually could see them taking a little bit of a dip is defensively, where they've been very dominant the last couple of years. I do think Super Bowl hangover will have something to do with their lesser record, but I still think they're going to win this division. Like, I still think they're going to win 11, 12 games. This is going to be a very tight division. There's going to be a lot of probably teams that could make the playoffs here. But I also feel like the Chiefs are just most consistent, most reliable. They've got the best coaching staff. They've got the best quarterback. There's really no reason to doubt them, right? Even if I think that maybe their O-line will still stink, maybe their D-line will take a step backwards, maybe there's things to like nitpick, but really, like, every other team has that same thing. And even with a Super Bowl hangover, the Chiefs have proven to be able to stay consistent. So I will see it before I believe it, okay? Then you got the Los Angeles Chargers. I didn't intentionally do an accent there. I just kind of messed the word up, so I tried to flip it into something. The Chargers are going to go second because I like Herbert and Harbaugh as the foundation. I think Herbert's easily the second best quarterback in this division. I think they improved their running game, right, with Hampton and with Harris. The H combination, almost one more, and you got Triple H. Wide receivers, they did add Harris through the draft. They did add Mike Williams for a little bit of chemistry. And the offensive line is really what got upgraded, in my opinion, because Mekhi Becton's going to increase their power of their running game, and that's Greg Roman all the way around. Their tight ends, they've got a couple that they can play with. So I think the offense just in general will have more options to work with, more variety, more potential for this season than they did last year. And that will make for a better Herbert. And defensively, they've got a very well schemed up defense led by very good safeties, fast, twitchy linebackers, and a decent edge rush. I'd like them to add something more to the front seven before the season starts. That's kind of what makes me reluctant to truly buy into them. But I feel like they are a playoff team given their quarterback coaching foundation. The Broncos, I have missing the playoffs and putting the Patriots in, but the Broncos are my 8th seed. I like the Broncos defense a lot, but I'm not really sure how much better they can get from this year to last year to this year, so to speak. The Broncos, I will say, they do have Bo Nix, who could take a step forward in year 2, but I'm also not sure if he will, to be exact. Like, I want to see it because the weaponry hasn't really improved too much. Like, they did improve at running back with Harvey. He's an explosive threat out of the backfield, right? And they did add a Bryant at wide receiver, but I don't know how much he's going to get on the field. Like, so they're still relying a lot on Cortland Sutton and a lot of trickery from the mind of Sean Payton, which might actually be caught up on based on the tape study of other defensive coordinators across the NFL. So I'm a little concerned that their offense will just be a bit hit and miss, a bit inconsistent because they don't have enough individual talent for my liking personally. I like the offensive line. So I just feel like they're a solid, good team that kind of took the NFL by surprise last year that will kind of be at the same level as last year, but just kind of miss out on the playoffs due to how competitive their division is. And that's kind of the downside of the Broncos there. And then the Las Vegas Raiders I have at number 4. I do believe the Raiders will be better. I do believe they'll be more competitive week to week. I do believe that Geno Smith is going to increase their quarterback production. I do believe that Pete Carroll will make the culture stronger. I do think that this team will have more belief inside the building because they have Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, Geno Smith. There's a lot to believe in now, but I just don't think they have the talent to compete in this division with the other 3 teams. I love their defensive line. I think it's very underrated with Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, and even Tyree Wilson entering, year 3 now. But their linebackers are pretty stinky. Their corner position is one of the worst in football. Their safety position is suspect. So the rest of their defense, I'm not a fan of. The offensive line is solid, but not fantastic. I really like Brock Bowers, and I love Ashton Genty, but Jacoby Myers being your number 1 receiver is not exactly ideal with a good but not great quarterback in Geno Smith. So I just think they have less talent than these other teams. There's nothing against. I love the Raiders. I hope they do very well. I just think these other teams are better, personally. Now let's flip to the NFC East. The Eagles and Commanders I have in the playoffs, but I was extremely close to flipping the Commanders and Cowboys, as I brought up in a previous video talking about the Dallas Cowboys. I could easily buy the Cowboys over the Commanders because I think their defense is much tougher. I think their pass rush is much more explosive and dangerous. And I like their secondary, right? If they have all those 3 corners healthy, Diggs, Bland, and Revel, then that's a trio of corners that can cover you. And complementing a great pass rush led by Micah Parsons, Odigizua, Fowler, Ezeraku, that is going to be dangerous. I also love that Dak added George Pickens to CeeDee Lamb. So I'm starting to buy the Cowboys. I nearly put them in the playoffs as like my 7 seed or maybe even up taking the Commanders. But weirdly enough, the Commanders' schedule is actually technically a little bit easier than Dallas's based on strength of schedule, which is very odd. But both of them have extremely difficult schedules. I mean, they play, I believe, the AFC West and the NFC North, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's really difficult schedule. So I just don't see 3 teams in this division making the playoffs. But overall, the Eagles easily like the best team in this division, probably the best team in the conference entering the year. They have the best O-line in football. Lane Johnson on one side, Jordan Mailata on the other. You've got Dallas Goedert retained and coming back, Saquon being MVP caliber, Jalen Hurts, hopefully just calming down the offense because Kellen Moore, missing him could be a problem. But I just think they have too many weapons, too many areas to just dominate, whether it be the run game, the pass game, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, they can do it all. Vic Fangio leading the defense gives me a nice comfort because despite some losses like Milton Williams and Darius Slay, I still feel like he'll get the most out of those younger guys. Quinion could take a step. Cooper DeJean could take a step. Nolan Smith could take a step. And then also the guys that they picked up, Makuba, right, and Jahad Campbell. These guys could also be shining stars like Zach Bond was last year, and Jalen Carter is their alpha. So I think the Eagles could be in the NFC Championship again. I have them flirting with the number 1 seed. I haven't firmly kind of secured who my number 1 NFC seed is, but I would favor the Eagles right now. So that's the way I see it. And then the Giants are number 4 because the quarterback position. I just think at quarterback, they're substantially worse than Dak, Daniels, and Hurts. It really comes down to that. I actually like Brian Daboll. I actually think their receiving core and their weaponry is underrated. I like Tyrone Tracy at running back. I like the potential of Theo Johnson. I love Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson. I think their defense on paper is really talented. Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, forget about it. Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Chauncey Golston. You go through the list, they improved their secondary, Holland, Adebo, I like the Giants defense a lot. I just don't see how in this division that they really supplant anybody and move up the list this year. I just don't think Russ, Jameis, or Jackson Dart, I don't think any of them are going to do enough at quarterback to be better than these teams. Unless there's some injuries. which who knows, but I can't really predict that. So I have the Eagles and Commanders right now, but like I said, the Cowboys, they're sneaking up. Now, the Commanders, I'm concerned about their defense, but their offense, Jaden Daniels, he might be the best quarterback in this conference. So I just went with, okay, Jaden Daniels, he's sweet, he's sick. I can't keep doubting him. And at the same time, Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury, that's a heck of a coaching combination. As fluky and as lucky as they were last year, and as worried as I am about their pass rush and their defense, that offense should still score 28 to 30 points a game. In that case, I think they're going to win 9 or 10 games, and I think they'll make the playoffs. So that's the way I see the NFC East. Then you've got the NFC North. This one was tough, man. This one has me losing sleep. And honestly, given the day of the week, you could ask me, what's the NFC North standings? I've had the Vikings at number 2 the entire offseason so far. And basically what I did for this video is I just ranked the quarterbacks based on how I think they're going to perform next year. Jared Goff feels like the safest quarterback in the division, the best overall quarterback in the division. And the Lions also happen to have the most consistency from a culture standpoint, the most consistency from, an overall talent, roster, and just ability standpoint the last couple of years. NFC Championship game, number 1 seed in the NFC. So I think they'll retain the number 1 spot because they're the most consistent. And then after that, these teams are kind of inconsistent because Caleb could be inconsistent. Jordan Love definitely has been inconsistent. And JJ McCarthy, what is he? So I just ranked it. I think Caleb, I'm being bold here with the Bears. I think he will be a lot better because his interior offensive line with Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson, that's a huge improvement. Colston Loveland at tight end, I love. And then wide receiver Luther Burden, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze. They have so much weaponry for Ben Johnson to play with. I'm a huge Ben Johnson believer. And if I am, I can't back down. I have to take the Bears to be a better team, including the fact that Caleb could be better than Love. Caleb could be better than JJ. Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen, it's not like they're much worse than any of these coaches, in my opinion, from a complementary standpoint of offensive coaching, defensive coaching, and you add on a last place schedule in a division that plays the most difficult schedules I've seen in the NFL this year. The schedules they play are ludicrous. So, all these teams could make the playoffs. All these teams could win the division, honestly. If JJ is special, the Vikings could win the division. The Vikings kind of feel like they're going to finish 2nd, 1st, or 4th. I don't really see any in between. I don't see 3rd for them. That's going to be difficult for them to pull off, I think. I love Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, but I just don't know about JJ when he's facing one of the toughest schedules. You look at their schedule, guys. It is top-notch team, top-notch team, top-notch team. And then you kind of look at the Vikings and you're like, yeah, I love what they did on the offensive line and defensive line, but some of these players are often injured, like Will Fries last year, Ryan Kelly frequently, Christian Darrisaw last year, Aaron Jones is getting old, Jordan Addison has off-the-field problems at times. You could go through the roster, and then defensive line, Hargrave was injured last year, he's returning. Jonathan Allen, was injured last year. He is returning from injury. So how good are they now? And they paid them a lot of money. And then the corner position, the safety position, both kind of suspect. Their secondary could bleed big plays. So I'm worried about that. Once you start to nitpick these teams the way that you have to, I feel like the Vikings at 4 is justifiable despite me really liking their roster at the peak levels and really liking their coaching to the point where I could see them winning the division. So that's the difficulty here. The Packers feel like the 3rd place team almost no matter what because LaFleur is very consistent. He's going to put out a good productive offense despite them having less talent than the Lions, Bears, and Vikings on that side of the ball. They really do, right? I think their run game will be good. Their O-line is always good. Basically, Golden takes over for Watson, so it's kind of a wash in my opinion, but we'll see what the receiving core can make of it, and we'll see if Jordan Love can stay healthy. What scares me about the Packers, they lost to every good team they played last year. Every team they beat last year was not any good. Let's be honest. The teams that they beat were good were injured, right? Like the Texans, for example. So I look at the Packers and I'm like, their defense is mediocre. I'm worried that Alexander still gets traded. I'm worried that they don't have enough pass rush. That being said, LaFleur is a great coach. They do have an overall solid, balanced roster. They can run the ball, throw the ball. They can explode for big points. And they have good games defensively. So Packers are just a well-rounded team. I just don't know if they're great enough to be better than the Lions or the potential of what the Bears, not the Bills, the Bears wish they were the Bills in the NFC North. So this one was really difficult. I'm going to change my mind tomorrow, guys. Next, The NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are number one by a long shot, in my opinion, just because they straight up have the best quarterback. They have the best weaponry. They have arguably the best offensive line, but at least it's in the conversation with Falcons and Panthers. And they have, I think, like an awesome run defense. I would call it the best in the division. I think their defensive coaching under Todd Bowles is solid. And they just consistently win the division. Like, they've won the division 4 years in a row. Tom Brady or Baker Mayfield, both of them have dominated the division. And I dominated the division in terms of they've won the division, not necessarily that they beat all the teams within the division. That's not exactly what I mean. Okay. But you look at the offense, like Bucky Irving and Rashad White, right? Cade Otton. Then you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Ibuka, McMillan, Sterling Shepard. Like, they could just throw the ball all over the yard. Like, they've got a million targets, and Baker is coming off a top 5, top 6 quarterback season in the NFL last year. They have the best left tackle in the league, Tristan Wirfs. And, I mean, they're just a consistent franchise right now. And the Bucs, I mean, they're nasty in the front seven. Like, Kalijah Kancey with Vita Vea, with, a Logan Hall, another, like, high second-round pick. Then you've got Yaya Diaby with Hassan Reddick. With the depth they added there, you got Winfield, Dean, McCollum, Morrison, Parrish in the secondary now. I mean, they don't have a lot of holes, really. You look at their roster, it's really well constructed, despite me maybe not loving that they didn't address linebacker as much as I would have liked in the draft, but they're still the best team in this division by quite a wide margin. And they nearly beat the Commanders without Chris Godwin in the playoffs last year. The Falcons and the Panthers were very close for me. The Panthers just released Jadeveon Clowney, which bothered me a little bit because I feel like that would have been security at one of their weaker positions that I would have liked to have had or seen, but I kind of saw that coming. The Falcons just feel like a little bit better of a roster. I'm not really sure who will be better, Bryce Young or Michael Penix. I think Penix has a higher ceiling, but Bryce Young has a higher floor, if that makes sense. I think the offensive lines are both really solid. I think the Falcons get that credit. The Panthers are underrated. Their run games are both good. I would slightly lean towards Atlanta. I like Robinson as the play caller. I like Canales as the play caller. I think T-Mac will really help Bryce Young in that offense. Drake London and Mooney have done some good things there. I mean, they're both good offenses. I'm not really like leaning either way. Atlanta's just been a little bit better statistically. Defensively, the Panthers were worse than the Falcons last year, and the Falcons improved themselves and the Panthers improved themselves. It's kind of hard to say, man. Like, these two teams are very, very close. I feel like it will come down to the quarterbacks and which one will be better. I lean a little bit to the Falcons because I think their defense has a little bit less holes. Like, I like their linebackers. I like Raheem Morris on that side of the ball. I think he's solid. I love Jesse Bates. I love AJ Terrell. I think they don't have like the lackluster corner play that Carolina could see or safety play that Carolina could see. I think the Falcons are much better at linebacker. I think the Falcons could have more potential at edge, adding Leonard Floyd alongside 2 first-round picks in what they added in the draft with Jalen Walker and, Pierce. So I think the Falcons have been a little bit better. I think they still are a little bit better, but this one could go either way. The Saints are clearly the worst team in the division, especially if Derek Carr is out for a foreseeable future, like for a long time. If Derek Carr is out, like, they're the worst team in the league. But if Derek Carr is there, then they could be like the second best team, and it wouldn't be crazy, but it's probably unlikely. Their O-line is probably still a problem. They did add Kelvin Banks, and they lost Ryan Ramczyk. Alvin Kamara is getting super old in the backfield. Olave and Shaheed and Cooks is a nice little trio at wide receiver, and I don't mind Jawan Johnson and their tight ends. I think they've got enough to work with. It's just going to come down to how's the offensive line perform, how's Kellen Moore work with this offense, and is Derek Carr healthy enough, and I'm not sure about any of those things. And the run game, I think, could be lackluster. Defensively, I actually think they're going to be pretty bad on defense. Like, I could see them being better on offense if Derek Carr's there. Defensively, I mean, their pass rush is pretty non-existent. And their secondary, their corner position is really bad. Like, it's really bad. They have safeties, but their corner position is really bad. And they're relying on a lot of older players in key positions, like Tyrann Mathieu, like Cam Jordan, like Demario Davis. I mean, that's a problem. So the Saints, I think they're in need of a bad season. I think they'll get it this year. And the NFC West is really interesting. I'm going with a bold, hot take here. I have the San Francisco 49ers winning the division. And it honestly comes down to me, overall performance within the division the last few years, which the 49ers have been very good within the division when healthy. Last year, they had their lone slip-up season of falling short to the Cardinals once, and then the last game of the year, which didn't matter. They lost to the Seahawks once, which they should have won that game. They lost with like 2 seconds left. And again, extremely injured team, the most unlucky team, the hardest schedule last year in terms of travel, and they had a lot of wear and tear. And a lot of their older players are now gone. They've replaced them with fresher legs, and they've improved their coaching on defense. And then the Rams, they actually lost to twice last year. They typically sweep the Rams. So that's part of it. But the bigger part of it is the schedule. The Niners play the easiest schedule in the NFL by far. And it was close between the Rams and the Niners. The Rams have to play the Ravens, which the Niners don't play, the Eagles, which the Niners don't play, right? Like, they play, I believe, the Lions, which the Niners don't play. I think the only team that the Niners and Rams play is the Bucks that won their division because they both play the NFC South. But the Niners play a 4th place schedule, while the Rams play a 1st place schedule. And the only reason the Niners were 4th place is because of how many injuries and things they had. But they got younger on the defensive front, adding 3 or 4 pieces in the draft. I think that Michael Williams will be great in that system. I'm looking forward to maybe even them signing more guys this offseason, but Fred Warner, Nick Bosa leading the way defensively, and Saleh's coaching will go a long way. I also love Green and Lenore at cornerback. Offensively, they're going to be very good. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, and Kyle Shanahan calling plays with Brock Purdy, who I honestly think is getting hated on too much. Like, Brock Purdy's he's better than Darnold, and he's better than Kyler, in my opinion. Let's put it that way, okay? So I think the Niners don't play anyone that good, which is actually going to allow them to win a lot of games, like probably like 11 or 12. In that case, the Rams actually play a really, in comparison, a tough schedule. So the Rams, even though this division as a whole, I almost considered 3 playoff teams here because of the weakness of the schedules. I almost considered the Cardinals, but I just don't feel Kyler is consistent enough for me. And the offensive line scares me a little bit, and I'm uncertain about the defensive improvement, although I do feel it's there. So I was very close to the Cardinals. They're just outside the playoffs. Seattle, I just don't love their offensive line. I don't love how Sam will look behind that offensive line. I don't think they have enough explosiveness or consistency in the running game. So I don't think they have enough passing game explosiveness, despite JSN and Cooper Kupp's addition and Valdez, Scantling. Like, they don't have enough downfield ability. I think Darnold will be under pressure a lot like Geno was last year. That's a problem. And Kenneth Walker in the run game last year was atrocious because they couldn't block. And I think that's still a problem despite Kubiak's addition. Defensively, I think Seattle will be awesome. Defensively, I think the Cardinals will be better. And offensively, I think the Cardinals will still be very solid. I just think there will be games against better opponents where Kyler just doesn't play that well because he just usually doesn't. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I think their offensive line, especially in the interior, is a bit exposable against better pass rushing teams. And the lack of speed at receiver is also a little bit of a problem for me. But I think the Niners and Rams are going to make it. The Rams could easily win this division. I mean, you got Stafford and McVay. Stafford's the best quarterback in this division by quite a wide margin. I think the Rams also have the best offensive line in this division, which matters. And they also have the best pass rush, arguably, in this division. I think Seattle's will be there too, but I think the Rams, their problems are more so that they play a tougher schedule. They play a 1st place schedule. Stafford is liable to get hurt for a couple games. They do have, a guy like Devontae Adams that could be boom, or, he's getting older. But I do feel like their offense is going to be pretty darn awesome if they're on the field together. Adams, Nakua, Higbee, they added a tight end, and then you've got Kyron Williams in the backfield. I mean, their offense is going to be top 10 for sure, maybe top 5. Defensively, they've got, the pass rush, but you're worried about the linebacker level, the secondary a little bit. So the Niners and Rams will be very close. I almost feel like the Rams will be a better team. I just think they play a weaker, just a tougher schedule. The Niners play a weaker schedule. So it's very close in my opinion. But I see them both making the playoffs there. So there it is, guys. My predictions for every single division in 2025. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, spike the like button. 100 likes, remember, and you'll get every record prediction for every team in a video similar to this. And don't be a jabroni. Subscribe. Thanks, man. Peace.